My name is Derrick Jordan, currently incarcerated at the Hill Correctional Center. Please indulge me and allow me to explain my perpetual struggle for freedom and vindication from a wrongful conviction. I am one of the many African American youth that was systemically charged with murder felony back in the 1990s. At the tender age of 15, I was treated as an adult, and I was arrested and interrogated without a legal guardian present or anybody acting in my best interest. As a juvenile, it was a very painful and life-changing experience to endure the coercion, intimidation, deception, trickery, and fear tactics used on me by the Chicago Police Department. My story begins on the far south side of Chicago in the Morgan Park/Roseland community.
I'm Cherie Longmore. I'm Garrick's oldest sister. Garrick is the youngest out of 3 kids. But he was pretty much like a prankster, a jokester. He didn't he wasn't an evil person. When he came home, he would sit there and watch TV, or me and be wrestling, or just talking and playing games and stuff.
I was part of a group that was transitioning from being a street gang into a legit organization committed to improving the social skills that plagued the inner city neighborhoods. Although the organization encouraged mandatory school attendance, political rallies, and demonstrations, I was swayed by the gangster lifestyle and engaged in such activities as selling drugs and carrying guns. Eventually, that led to me having the unfortunate experience of being falsely arrested by the Chicago Police Department and wrongfully convicted of murder, attempted murder, armed robbery, and aggravated battery, then sentenced to 86 years for a crime that I did not commit or participate in. The conviction was based mostly upon the composite sketch of the perpetrator and improper police and prosecutorial tactics, which led to my arrest some 8 months after the crime occurred. I am the victim of some misidentification that stemmed from a suggestive lineup and photo array. On October 26, 1993, I was arrested for an aggravated battery and charged and transported to the Area 2 police station. While in the holding cell, Detective Michael McDermott handcuffed me and took me to an interrogation room on the second floor. As we passed the sergeant's desk, I saw my grandfather sitting on the bench. He began asking about my arrest, and Detective McDermott told him somebody would let him know what was going on. They continued taking me to the interrogation room.
So I stayed in the house. He called about 11 o'clock. He's on the phone. He was like, I didn't do this. I don't even know I'm here. They won't tell me anything. They questioning me. They want to let mommy in here to talk to me and stuff. And I'm going to be a juvenile. I was an adult present. And they would not let nobody in here. Yep. And he sounded so terrified on the phone. I have never heard my brother talk like that before.
Once he came into the interrogation room, I noticed that there was no youth officer present. And he did not read me my Miranda rights before he started questioning me. Initially, I was asked about the gun used in the aggravated battery and subjected to threats and intimidation. I ended up confessing to still having the gun and told Detective McDermott whether it was located. He then left me in the room by myself and convinced my grandfather to let him search his house for the gun.
Like I pulled up, the police was walking through the house. And it was going to Derrick's room. And they went up there and looked on his mattress and found the gun and came back out the house. That's all they did. They didn't search no place else in his room besides his mattress.
3 detectives, James Boylan, Jack Wilkins, and Michael McDermott, returned with the gun and began looking through some old unsolved crimes in the area. They set us on a murder robbery that happened in April of 1993. The reason they set us on that particular case was because of the similarities between me and the offender, who was described as being approximately 5'3" to 5'5". wearing a red San Francisco Stars jacket and armed with a small caliber handgun. When I was arrested on October 26, 1993, I was wearing a red task force coat of similar height and a small caliber handgun to cover from my grandfather's house. When Detective McDermott returned to the interrogation room, he did not bring in my grandfather and youth officer or Miranda's room prior to asking me about the April 1st, 1993 shooting. I denied all involvement in the shooting and was eventually only charged with aggravated battery. I was then transported to the juvenile detention center and released the next morning to the custody of my parents. Several months later, on December 1st, 1993, the above-mentioned detectives went to their witness with a photo array that included a photo of me taken October 26, 1993. In that photo array, I was the only person wearing the red coat, and from that illegal procedure, I was identified. Then on December 6, 1993, out of my grandparents' house, I was arrested again by the detectives and taken to the Area 2 police station, where I was again interrogated at length on April 1st, 1993 shooting without a legal guardian or youth officer present. I repeatedly denied having any involvement in the shooting and rejected all of Detective McDermott's scenarios about me participating in the crime. Later that night, I was placed in a highly suggestive lineup and told to stand between two individuals that were taller than me, of lighter complexion, and strikingly different hairstyles than mine. Those factors resulted in a false identification. At some point, my mother, Derrick Jordan, arrived at the police station after being informed of my arrest by my grandfather.
No, they wouldn't even let me in there while they were interviewing him. I was trying to get back to her, and they wouldn't allow me in there while they were interviewing Derrick. So I was pitching a fit out there in the police station. My father told me to sit down before they arrest me. but they arrested him for and kept him.
I never made any statements implicating myself in the shooting, but I did acknowledge having learned about the shooting from a friend on the streets. As a result of this illegal detainment and interrogation, I was charged with the April 1st, 1993 shooting, murder, robbery as a juvenile, and later the state filed a motion requesting to prosecute me as an adult. It is my contention that the judge abused his discretion in granting the motion because there was no basis for his finding that I was not amenable to treatment and training programs available through the Illinois juvenile facilities. Once the state was given permission to prosecute me as an adult, my family retained attorneys to represent me. We had never defended a murder case prior to representing me. The lead detective in the case was Michael McDermott, the same Michael McDermott who was given a proffer of immunity in return for his testimony against former Chicago Police Commander John Burge. Detective McDermott was responsible for the justified lineup, identification, and the recovery of the .22 caliber handgun. His history of police misconduct did not become public information until June 2006, during a special prosecutor's investigation into the prisoner's allegations of torture at the Area 2 police station. The investigation revealed that in the case of Alfonso Phoenix, Detective Michael McDermott and his partner, Detective Max Locker, subjected Phoenix to abuse during his interrogation and committed in his trial. However, even though there was evidence to seek an indictment for that abuse, the prosecutor declined to do so. I have never received a fair trial to actually prove my innocence before, during, and after my conviction, due to the horrible and inadequate representation and the abuse of discretion by Judge Eric Margaret Rosnahan, who was an advocate for the prosecution. I had challenged my conviction through numerous appeals and petitions. My claims of constitutional deprivation, which contributed to my conviction, was never heard due to the corruption in the Illinois judicial system. This introduction to my cause is a brief synopsis of the legal aspects of my case. I have been under the yoke of incarceration since I was 15 years old, languishing in prison and idly wasting away for a crime that I did not commit. This is my plea for mercy and compassion. Any assistance that you are willing to render in this endeavor will be greatly appreciated. If by chance you are unable to render any assistance or services, I ask that you share my story with friends, associates, or others that are interested in the judicial system. Thank you.